Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. We love you so much. We all love California because California is our own state, its own backyard. And this is the second show with the same title, What's Wrong with California? So welcome to the show. My name is Jack Chow with the GNE TV on this East-West show. Joining me are my dear friends from Orange County. Literally, I'm talking about originally from Monterey Park, later from Orange County for a better house, bigger house, right? So that's my old friend, Betty Tom Chu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's my pleasure to see you again.
Sure. And speaking of Betty Tom Chu, I have a long story, long history, and a big credit, and huge credit to talk about. And I just make it as short as possible. If I read the lines of all the titles or whatsoever positions, I have to totally cancel the show, do the position only, right? So first of all, she was a banker, she was a lawyer, she was a mayor of Monterey Park for multi times, and she's council member, of course, regardless. Now she is a member and the leader of the Orange County Chinese American Citizen Alliance, right? And then next to her is my other friend, John G. I confuse you with the David G of downtown, yeah, downtown safety all the time. But David G is the president of Orange County Chinese American Citizen Alliance.
John G.
John G. John G. Again, see. So I'm more focused on the subject I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, John is a dear friend to the community, and he is a fighter. And the part that I respect most is that they are the guys. They are the guys, even now, still being very vocal to the World War II commemoration issues, right? And the comfort woman, the statue, and lots of issues over that period of time. People forgotten already. All right. So I respect them a lot for being who they are, for doing what they do. And to John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Right. Excuse me, this is digital time. It bothers me all the time. You have to learn precisely with a new device how to silence it. This thing still gives you problem now. Right, as you can see. Anyway, my audience know me. I'm a dummy of those computer things.
Don't
right?
feel like the Lone Ranger. I have the problem too.
Yeah. Kind of right. Anyway, so speaking of the subject today, what's wrong with California? And I will bring the crying baby to you, the mother. Right? So what's wrong with California?
Well,
that's a big
of all,
question, but needs to be answered one by one if we have many questions.
First of all, why are you and why are so many California residents asking that question when Governor Jerry Brown says, oh, there's a booming economy in California and we now have an estimated huge budget surplus, which is only $6 million, not that much.
$6 million to California is almost nothing.
It's not even 5%.
But at least it's a surplus where we have been in deficits for many years. And that deficit is caused by the way California is being run, and that problem still exists today and has not gone away.
Okay, all right.
So if we talk about crime, California has one of the highest crime rates in the nation. The violent crime rate is higher than the national rate and is among the 15th highest among all states.
I've been on that subject for several shows already.
Yeah.
It is, seriously.
But not only do we now have crime rates continuing to rise, we also have problems with poverty, problems with homelessness, problems with education.
Yes.
And these issues now have encroached upon the health of California.
You are right. I agree. I agree. That's the first diagnosis. And how do you see as what's wrong with California?
Well, I see it from a slightly different perspective. I see it from sort of looking down from the 100th floor on the surface. And what I see basically is you go back and it's fundamental. The fundamental is the people who run the system believe that government is the source of solutions. Government is where all of us should look to solve our problems. That in part has come from the fact that for years governmental employees had to pay union fees whether or not they were union members. And that has resulted in the unions presenting their point of view that the government should be the source of solutions and not be limited so that the people are the source of solutions.
As government shouldn't or should not be the solution, we will just put aside a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the part that what areas, other areas, in addition to what Betty had talked about, that you find out California is wrong. It's devastatingly wrong.
Well, one of the problems with government, going back to the government as a solution, is that we're driving out businesses.
All right.
And that because we've taxed them to death, as well as we created a whole bunch of regulations that are hard to satisfy. For instance, it takes 3 times as long to start a business in California than it is in Texas or in Nevada or Arizona, because they have a different philosophy about how to govern. The other part of it is that the people here, we pay the highest taxes.
Okay, okay.
So this is a transfer of wealth. And the transfer of wealth to the government is bad in my opinion because it's not their money. They can spend it, they can create deficits, and that because it's not their money, they don't feel they have to be as accountable.
Okay, all right, okay. And just a problem, lay the problem all in the basket, and we pick one, talk about one. We pick one, talk about one, right? Okay, all together we put the problem there, right? I'll start with you, Betty, please. And you started by saying we ran from red to black, yet we have only 6 million extra, right? Right. Of course, 6 million is a lot of money to me, but to California, it's almost nothing, right? Why are we so proud of such a poor, whatever, 6 million? That's the problem.
Because that's why elected officials have to tout it that way to hide the facts really from the voters and the residents of California so they can perpetuate the bureaucracy. $6 million doesn't even begin to solve any of our unfunded liability problems in California.
Well, one of the big unfunded liabilities are pensions, public pensions.
Big one.
And just to give you in perspective, I believe the state of California's general budget is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 billion.
Last time I heard 198.
Yes. Well, businesses who run such large enterprises will at least have 7.5% to 10% in reserve against potential calamity.
Some rainy day.
Some rainy day. But if you look at our budget and you look at our liabilities, we are actually probably almost $100 billion in the red once you put in the liabilities of the pension funds.
Yeah. And the worst thing is that, Betty, last time, remember, you and I had this discussion, we're talking about, we fixed our unfunded liabilities at the time of good times, not the bad times, right?
Yes.
And now, in the bad time, we still have to be obligated to whatever we had been tied up ourselves for. So, how can we untie that? Is there a solution?
Well, I do not believe that during these good times that we are even facing the issue of the unfunded liabilities, because we see increasing needs by the government to change however lifestyle our voters are living. For instance, the fast train to nowhere.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
instance, we are funding the illegal immigrants' legal cases. So there are more and more problems that are coming about for the use of those funds, according to elected officials, without even facing the realities of what problems we have here today. California has the highest poverty rate in the whole nation. How can that be when we have the booming economy? And now we are talking about increasing the minimum wage. That hurts the people on the poverty
Where does the
levels
money come
even
from?
more. It's going to come from the businesses that we have that are going to be exiting California or going into bankruptcy or cutting their employment force because of the raise in the minimum
wage,
salaries.
yeah.
And we see that happening in other states that have already been statistics on that. And yet, that's the route that we are continuing on. The same route that we have on unfunded liabilities, so long as elected officials don't have and face up to their responsibility, and there's
Okay, very
no
good.
remedy
Very
for
good.
that.
In between limited resources of money and the overassigned liabilities, right? We come a shortage, right? And then Betty is pointing finger at the allocation of money, how we play with the money, right? Even though limited, even though high, obligation, right? So what's your take in between the two? Do you think Jerry Brown for the past terms have been doing any good job or something of that kind of,
Well,
etc.?
Jerry Brown has faced part of the reality, but he's also created problems. You know, the pushing of the bullet train, one of the things that I've learned from my dealings with public finance is how do you pay off unions for their support?
Okay.
You create public projects.
Yeah.
And when you create public projects, you get jobs, but the public projects may or may not pan
And
out.
you favor the union.
Yeah. So,
Right.
so that's one of the problems.
Does this sound like a reciprocation thing?
Yeah.
Right?
It is. It
We
definitely is.
in Chinese old proverb we call it donkey scratch. When the donkeys have a scratch, I need a scratch, they do favor to each other like this on the neck. So donkey scratch,
Well,
favoring to each other.
well, the other part of the problem is philosophical. We've migrated, we've changed from pay as you go to pay with somebody else's money in the future.
All right.
And so that works so long as the economy grows.
Okay. Okay, John. Let's call for a breakup right now. Break it out, and we'll come back to continue. It looks that we really have to focus in this area for a little bit more.
Okay.
Right. So stay with us. Hello, my dear friends, lovely audiences, my dear fellow Californians. Welcome back to the talk about California. So, yeah, it's Californian, right? So, joining me in the diagnostic work for California in the title, What's Wrong with California? Or What's Wrong is California in California whatsoever, are my great friends from Orange County, Betty Tom Chu. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one thing. She was the former candidate for Congress.
Yes.
Good. And there's another chance you want to run again.
No, there isn't. But during my
No, there
run for
could be.
Congress, Jack,
There could be.
the thing that I emphasized was the need to improve the economy and to have more jobs.
Oh, very good. You did the right thing to
And-
do that, right? They call it that. And the next to her is my good friend John G. of Orange County. He is the president of Orange County Chinese American Citizen Alliance, right? Well, together we want to give California a diagnosis to see what's wrong with California. Because me, myself, I came here 36 years ago. I can at least testify more than a quarter of a century how California was, right? And how California now is now. So with the comparison, you don't need an answer. You just say, hey, what's wrong? Well, people will agree with you. Oh, yeah, at least something is wrong. So what is the something now? That is what we're talking about. So back to John, you were talking about union and whatever, the reciprocation point.
It works so long as the economy is growing and jobs are created. So when you see Toyota leave California, Nissan leave
No, Harley
California.
Davidson is leaving.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reasons why are the regulations and the taxes. And the other things that go along with it is that the sense of entitlement that we have addicted our population here to. Let me give you a small perspective. Do you realize that California's economy generates something like $200 and some billion, which is equal to the gross national product of Great Britain? And that yet we have these problems because we have not addressed the basic issues. One of the basic issues is education. A lot of people come here and discover the education system is not good. They have to go private, so they move out to places where they have better education. Other is transportation.
Yeah, we
So-
can't.
so-
no.
No, but
Yeah.
that's a migration. So how do you solve California's problem when you create an hostile environment for people to produce?
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. That's a very statement, even though lengthy, because we have lengthy problems, right? So I like your statement, but I want to do it in a different way to tackle it one by one, right? Now, when there is no solution right now in between money and reality, in other words, use simple terms, right? So what is this third thing left is that you mentioned legislature, right? So can we do something, or can we find solutions in the legislature or by swapping around, change them, replace them? Josh Newman, for example, right? So can we do things that way, like that kind? We don't like you, go. Right?
Absolutely.
We like you, go on, come on, like that kind of thing.
Absolutely. We have an opportunity here in California to tackle the issues in this election.
Yes.
Because we now have an example, Jack, on how the economy and many other issues were turned around nationally by a change in the elected officials.
All right.
And California can do the same.
That I like to see.
We do not need an elected official who was the mayor of a city that now has 20-mile stretch of feces, trash, and hypodermic needles out in the street.
You're talking about the riverbed, right?
No, I'm talking about San Francisco and the Santa Ana riverbed.
Santa riverbed.
Santa
Yes.
Ana riverbed also is very poor. But the philosophy and the practices that got San Francisco where it is was the same philosophies, but even worse than that practice under one of the candidates for our California top office. So, and remember, we have a super majority in the legislature of progressive ideas.
Why I put this issue now is that I got encouraged from the recall for Josh Newman. That indicated once again, back to your point, that where the government is the solution or we the people are the solution. And I will stick to that, my doctrine, that we the people are the ones that account, right? So can we do something, John?
Yes.
By swapping around with the legislators?
Well, it's been made more difficult because it's the top two vote getters and no longer Republican Party completing parties. So, but that can change, and the change is looking at everybody when we look in the mirror, when we say it's time to vote. Voting, people voting are insufficient. We elect people by 20%, 30% maximum of the vote. If we can get the people out in mass.
Exactly. That's why your OC align will do the job. We put many of the organizations there. We yell, we scream, we shout, we push people out on the street to vote. That's the thing to do, right? Now, it is the moment. It is a critical moment to do it. You heard about AB 1810? AB 1810, Assembly Bill 1810. You heard that?
What is the title of the bill?
Yeah, I don't recall the title. It is something called the mental condition diversion. Something that, if, for example, I rape a woman, right? And by applying the AB 1810, I can say, my attorney can say, Your Honor, my client has a mental health condition.
Okay, I remember.
So give him a break. Number one, to check the doctor if he has one, and then he has to go through process of rehabilitation whatsoever, and come back to get case dismissed. That's the law now.
That is a huge mistake.
Right? By the way, it is not law yet. It is going to be the law if signed, all right? So, see, with the legislators, right, crazy like that, okay, I thought third bathroom was the top of their stupidity. Now, no, we have 1810. So I would like you, do me a favor, go back to your people, to your organization, say, folks, let's go out, let's walk out, let's vote. So this is going to be on November ballot to vote.
See, that creates additional expenditures to add different governmental agencies.
Community safety. By releasing me, you have a bad guy, one more bad guy on the street, John.
Well, it goes back to someone's view of the world, that you cannot do anything wrong if you had bad parents. You know, there are a lot of people who had bad parents who did a lot of right.
Yes.
And that not holding people accountable is one of the things that has changed in the 30 to 50 years here. I can remember that people failed were failed in high school and junior high and grammar school. Now you cannot fail them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're all good.
and what does that say?
They're all good kids.
Right. Yeah. What does that say?
All right.
That
good.
says it's okay
All right,
not
good.
to perform.
John, don't stretch, please. Let's focus to her agenda.
Well-
okay. Now, what's your next on your list? Let's still go to diagnose. Let's a diagnostic talk, right? Right. What's your next diagnose?
What topic would you like to
I don't know.
tackle?
Education.
Yeah, education. Looking
Well-
at California, you talk about everything.
I think that we really need first to focus on the issues of how the government is overspending.
Overspending, yes.
Because their overspending causes people to feel entitled. And that's what happens in our educational field. Because no matter how much we spend, it will never be enough, and the education levels do not improve.
Exactly.
Except now.
Yeah.
One of the cases that started off in California was a school teacher here in California fighting the teachers union. That case, unfortunately, was not a win for the plaintiff teacher because Scalia died. But then someone else picked up the gauntlet, and there was a recent case in which John referred to where the unions no longer have deep pockets. That's a big step towards making accountability of the unions to compete.
The Supreme Court just made a rule that you cannot take your hands into, stick your hand in the pocket for even non-members to pay fees,
Yes.
right?
So one of the things, when we go back to the education program, is that you realize that there are no competitors.
Yeah.
And that we have a dedicated part of the budget to education.
The highest portion of the budget.
To education. So essentially, this is a tapeworm. How to fix it is to introduce more competition in the education field. Part of it is charter schools. Part of it is voucher systems, where people can choose to spend their tax money that they get credit for their child to go to a better school.
All right. Okay, my friend. My lovely audience, today I get a little excited talking about California because this is the second diagnostic of California. I did my first one with my friend Mark Ang. You know him, right?
Yes.
And we talked quite a bit about California. By talking so, you realize all of a sudden my California is getting some kind of problem that we need to call doctor for, right? So being the doctors, they share their views, and I shall have lots of doctors here on the show, and I'm so determined. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East West show with G&E TV. We care about our California for no other reasons because we are being selfish. It is our own backyard, right? So if we Californians do not care about California, you think Texans will do? New Yorkers will do? Right? No, of course. By logic, we have to care about California. Caring California, well, you can do one thing, well, go out to vote, exercise your right of democracy. Under this beautiful flag of democracy, you have the right that lots of people are dying for, are dying to get here for, right?
Yes.
And you abuse it? Come on, ask yourself, knock here. So make it fair to hear, right? So now, exercise your right for democracy, go out to vote. That's your call, my call. I want to make it everybody's call. Now, back to the subject today, talking about California. What's wrong with California? I joke with myself. I said, we need doctors, right? So these doctors today, being Betty, my dear, dear friend, who I go back for no less than 15 years, 2003 or
Yes.
2 something. Former council member, mayor, multi-time mayor, council member of Monterey Park City. And she was a lawyer, she was a banker, she was everything. She was even only once the attorney for Governor Jerry Brown back in the old days, right?
Yes.
Was he behaving what?
Well, he was on the Community College District Board, and I will say that I've had better clients.
Yeah, better clients. Good, good, good. I like that statement. And yet, and she doesn't stop there. She was once former candidate for Congress. I asked her if she would run again if there's another chance. She didn't answer me. Well, probably leave that blank for a kind of suspension. Okay, next to her is my dear friend, Mr. Zhang Ji. Zhang Ji is president of OC, Orange County Chinese American Citizen Line. Right? For many years, I witnessed their activities, including the activities of the commemoration for the World War II veterans and for the victims, such as the comfort woman issue. For those, I give you both a big hand, right? And now, once again, they're doing their job by playing doctors, see what's wrong with California, back to the issue, right? We were talking about the union versus our limited money. We're talking about ill will spending. I call ill will spending. I have Mark Ang testified that, talking about bullet trains, he says, do we have the passengers?
Well, you know, I would.
Do we have enough passengers?
Well, I would
that's
amend your. It's not ill will spending. I would say it's wrong-headed spending.
Wrong-headed, the same thing, all right?
Well, no, you're thinking bad.
Yeah.
Okay, but one of the things that I think we can all do, and I did it for a number of years while I was in Monterey Park, was on city council days. I would sit there and listen, and I would speak out. And I think I made a small impact on it. So one of the things that we can all start doing is to monitor our elected officials.
All right.
And say and say to them, no, this is stupid, don't do it. Well, I'd be more tactful. It's ill-advised, and don't do it. So that they get the feeling that somebody is looking over their shoulder and not just buying their line of reasoning. That is one thing we can all do.
But before that, John,
Yes.
right now we have the opportunity to elect officials both in the legislature and in the executive branch of California to at least start to try to change that. We have
Yes.
very credible candidates this year that are for lesser government, meaning less regulations so the businesses can make the money, hire the people, so that the taxes don't just come from constant taxing of the rich, but to increase the pool of people that contribute to the economy of California and that they share in the responsibility for the health.
Yeah, such as
Yes.
John Cox.
Such as John Cox.
But there is an additional person running.
And I just want to do a little insertion to once again reiterate that we, the people, are the ones that would make a difference. Do you remember San Marino? One of the city council member, or was he a vice mayor or whatever, threw the dog poo over to somebody's yard, and that was caught on camera, and he was forced to resign, right?
Yes.
So now, voice, people's voice would make a difference. Right?
But before you voice that, get to the voting.
Yeah.
Then you may not need to raise the ugly voice.
And
but
then John
to
called
raise-
for check the voting records.
Yes.
Check them, put them under supervision, right? I give you an example. For those guys who come knock on your door during times of campaign, right? And I witnessed quite a few of them, quite a number of them, that they are gone the next day after election. You never see them until the next election.
Well, of course. But let me, on voting, it's very important for us to have a Secretary of State who is the guardian of the voting register. Do you realize that in Los Angeles County, the number of people able to vote is between 30 and 40% above the registered voters? And that is because the current Secretary of State, who's a Democrat, is not enforcing the laws that would eliminate those people who don't qualify to vote anymore because they're dead, or that they did not. There is some being somewhat invalid in some way or form. So so we need also to elect somebody like Mark Mosier to guard our voting.
We just focus in general to encourage people on voting. As to technicality of voting itself, though, as to Secretary of State that doesn't do the job, that's the other issue. That's a smaller issue compared to big ones, right? So how do you recommend us, the people, we the people, to supervise the elected officials?
Well, one thing right now that is going on is a petition to repeal the law that says once you get your driver's license, you are automatically enrolled as a voter. You're already automatically registered as a voter in California.
Whether you're a citizen or not.
Oh, no, that's terrible. That's terrible.
That is happening
That's
now
terrible.
with the petition that we can all be aware of and want to sign. I myself have observed illegal voting. And gone
to put it in a
correct
very,
it.
very personal point of view, right? I got my right because I did my thing every step the right way, and I paid my dues every step my way to get the right I deserve, right? If somebody has the same right as I do, and yet they are not legally did everything what I did, well, that dilutes my right.
Absolutely.
Exactly, same-sex marriage. I have no problem with their loving to each other whatsoever, and that's your freedom. If you want to use the word marriage, though, you're invading me. Right? You're invading my doctrine. Marriage is such a sacred word. I swear, and I want something like that.
I think we can tell.
Exactly, I disagree.
I think we can tell from the rhetoric that is going on today in a national level that people no longer respect the rights that they impose upon.
Is that going to be on the ballot?
By trying to. What is
this voting thing? This driver license voting thing?
That already is the law. We need to repeal that. That, I think, came about with a series of laws that permit illegal aliens to get driver's licenses. And naturally,
you got your driver's license, okay. Right or wrong, we talk about later. But the thing is that you do not get the voting right.
Well,
because that's how they can increase
that's wrong.
how they can increase their voter base.
Well, that's why
for the people that give them the entitlements.
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned the Secretary of State, which it's critical that we elect someone and it goes to choice, go out and vote for someone who will enforce the laws and remove those people who are not citizens from the voting rolls. So that's one of the things. That's how these people have loaded the dice.
I really want to find out which law that was.
Okay. So,
right?
so
I want to make sure if that was law. All right. If that was law, shame on me.
Yeah.
A media man so active and so seen every single day by the audiences do not even know there is such a law, shame on me. If there is an attempt of making that law, all right, go down with the attempt, right? And
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
tackle that much, right?
Yeah.
So my dear audiences, with me today are two great friends of mine. You know, when old friends meeting together, you know, you always get a little overboard, either get drunk or get excited. I get excited, and if I had some scotch, I would get drunk, right? So anyway, we're talking about California. California. We love our dear California because we're Californians, right? So the way to do is that starting last week already, I'm collecting the quote-unquote doctors to diagnose California, see what's wrong with California to find solutions. Just now we came to one point about the voting right thing, which I'm not sure I would go find out. So let's take a very short moment out. We will come back to continue with our fourth segment. It looks that 4 will not be enough. We need to do 8. Hello, dear friends, lovely audience. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show with GNE TV. Today we're talking about California. We're giving California a diagnosis. A diagnostic look into California would probably help at least one thing to make my audience aware, oh my God, California is such or is much. All right, so yes, joining me are my two of my wonderful friends. We go back lots of years. Betty Tom Chu, originally from Monterey Park, now Orange County, and John G, president of Orange County Chinese American Citizen Line. Yes, they together made lots of positive issues vocal, and I respect them for their set of mind, for their love to the community, for their love to justice. And nowadays, in the year of 2018, who the hell talks about World War II? They forgot that already. Who die, you die. You're an unlucky guy, you die, right? They don't care. No. We should always commemorate them. And they are the ones who called for the monument and to those victims during the World War II, such as the comfort women. They're the ones still calling, and now they are doing another vocal thing. You're a vocalist. Calling about
Sometimes off key.
Yeah, sure. Oh, you really have to do something, right? They are singing for California, right? So talking about the thing though, you've been an attorney for quite so many years, and leader of organizing group or thing. So to look at all the problems that we have though, what would you prioritize? What shall we tackle first? And the same thing I will ask you, right? Please. Yeah, you start first.
What we should tackle first is to change the mentality of where we are philosophically going in terms of our elected officials, so we have leaders that will tackle the problems in a positive manner to keep our businesses here in California, to create the environment where we can tackle other problems such as unfunded liabilities, the education, the exit of businesses in California, the homeless issues. All of this goes back to accountability, less governmental regulations, better expenditure of funds, and reality of holding elected officials
Okay,
accountable.
okay. And how do you comment, John, about the one party or single party politics?
Well, I'm a bad person to ask that because I'm prejudiced.
You're
Prejudiced.
all right.
And the
you're
reason
prejudiced,
why
right?
I'm prejudiced is that one of the parties has an historic, has a history of enslaving people, of taking away rights, and of putting things, emphasizing government over people's rights. That's the Democratic Party. So I have a preference for the Republican parties, which is for choice and defending of people's rights. So, as such, I think the thing that we need to do is to restructure people's thinking, to link up and tell them about the differences in philosophy and what it means in our lives.
All right, you're exactly right. We're not talking about you're on the right, I'm on the left. We're talking about we should all to be on the fair ground, to be in the middle, to take it from a universal point of view. We're talking about the pendulum effect, right? So you always have to do so, rather staying in the right all the time, or rather staying left all the time. You have to do that. How do you comment on my point of that, please,
We
Betty?
need to be issue oriented. Once you
Issue
become,
oriented. Okay.
when
good.
you become oriented in the issues and you choose and make people accountable as elected officials to adhere to the principles that we vote for, then I think we can begin to foresee some change.
Okay. Good point.
And some of these issues really should
Yeah,
cross party
yeah,
lines.
Yeah.
And yet, there's only, so long as we only vote one party, and that's the way the system was rigged by the voting for the top two candidates.
I'm very sorry, Betty. It is a good point to make it issue oriented. Now that, let me ask you, do we need a bullet train issue? Right? Let's talk about it. Let's vote. And it come out the same way, left and right. And
That's what we
then-
did on the gas tax,
All right.
okay?
All right,
We're
now-
voting to now limit the uses of gas taxes and to
Okay.
eliminate the ability of the unaccountable
You were-
elected officials
You were talking
to
about the
increase it.
use of gas tax, right? And why don't you talk also about the use of the water money,
Right.
of the infrastructure money, of the road money, of everything, even for water bills, water measures? How many times do you recall that we have measures, water measures?
Well, yes, because
Where are the money?
What happens is that the
So
money is spent
issue
on.
oriented will not even work.
Well,
Either.
part of it is that let's take the gasoline tax. For years, we've collected gasoline taxes
To fix the roads.
to fix
To
the
fix
roads.
the road, quote
but
unquote.
but the roads were in such good shape for a long time that people diverted the money to use as something else. And now
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
now
And they don't pay back.
they don't pay
Yeah, of
back.
course.
So one of the things that we need to get back to is basics for the people to look at things correctly. Is it right for you to steal the money from one fund to fund something else? Yes or no? Is it correct that we should spend money on useless things?
Okay, when constituents do not even care, so of course it's their freedom to allocate as much as they want, as freely as they want. If the constituents are caring about, are knocking on the desk and say, where is my money?
Accountability.
Accountability we're talking about. That's
Yes,
the talk.
But
right?
but you see, the attitude toward government has to change. Governments should be limited and not expansive. Not
Am I right? I'm starting to get a feeling that I'm under impression that we, the people, might be the key,
Yes.
or the ones that we are holding. We're not without realizing is that to go to motivate as many people as possible to look at our politics, to check about their voting record, to check about issue. Let them vote for everything to decide. Rather than when they make laws, let the people make laws.
And when they make those laws of entitlement, they now have a captive elected voter base. That's why we need to make sure that who we elect as Secretary of State deals with those issues.
Speaking of Secretary of State, you look at the language of the text, the language of our propositions. That do you agree? Okay, yes or no? If somebody say Jack Chow is not a handsome man, so do you say yes or no, right? And they are using the negativity to negativity, double negativities to talk to make an issue.
Yeah.
They're fooling around.
And
So
confuses
Yes.
confuses the voter at the ballot box.
till the end of the day, probably we need to go back to the vigilante days to make this a down, or up, that kind of a law thing.
Well, the problem is that we do no longer say things in the clear. Part of that is political correctness.
yes.
The other part is that if we really said things in the clear, nobody may vote for it. So if we put double negatives and other things in there,
Yeah.
then we can fool the people. So this part of the solution is that none of these propositions should go on a ballot if it is not straightforward and speaking in the clear.
See, we started off with Jerry Brown bragging about the economy and hiding facts.
But
That's the same thing with our laws.
That said though, will change of a governor help?
Yes, it
All right.
definitely will help.
So now we
because
have
we
two-
need leadership at the top that believes in a limited government to serve the people. That he is the servant of the
So
people.
we have now between Cox and Newsom, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Remember, Newsom was mayor of the city of
Of,
San Francisco.
San Francisco, yes,
San
yes,
Francisco
yes,
did
yes,
not
yes.
turn out to be this mess in just
San Francisco
overnight.
is very, very famous. About a week ago, I saw a clip about their naked parade of those LGBTQIA group. Oh my God, what a long acronym that you have to be very carefully not to miss any word, otherwise you're not politically right. Okay, now thing.
Jack,
So,
that parade existed long before this last 5 years. It has lasted for at least 30 years. And I will tell you that that parade existed during the time of Lieutenant Governor Newsom's time as mayor in the city of San Francisco.
okay, all right, okay. So it's traditional, right?
Yeah.
Traditional.
Well,
Yes.
it's-
So that's why I am saying that
So
we
we're
need to,
getting.
we need to have people in the leadership that have a change of philosophy that
On
will
one
execute.
hand, you have Me Too, Me Too, Me Too keep adding, and on the other you have LGBT, and then Q, and then I, and then A, Me Too, and then B, and then Me Too, then C. Do you think they are heading the same way? Oh, by the way, my declaration, my disclaimer that whatever I say represent me, myself, Jack Chow only, nothing to do with the organization, with my job, with G&D TV, with my group, with my team. No, myself, right? So this is it. So
Well-
we're heading nowhere, man. This is
Well,
the problem.
No, but if you see the changes on the national level with the respect of the recent decision that came on the bakery decision.
The cake.
And now we are getting to the point we need to not transgress upon the rights of the people that have these initial labels, but we they have their rights that cannot transgress upon the rights of others.
Yeah.
But you
All right.
see,
So-
acceptance, tolerance is not acceptance. I may tolerate you as an individual, but
Yeah.
you and I
But
may not
they
be
take
accepted.
it for granted, man.
Well, no.
That's the problem.
Well, no, they take it as
And
if
entitled.
Or
if you-
encouragement.
Yes, yes, and it's
All right,
o-
we're way over time. We're 3 minutes over time. Well, unless we want to do another one continuously.
No.
All right, good. All right, and we'll be back anyway. My dear audience, it's very instructive to talk about our California this way, right? So only by doing so can California get healthier. Otherwise, we don't. Right, my dear audience, thank you for watching. I once again call upon you, please. I demand, I hail, go out, exercise your right.
Register
You
first.
register first. All right, good. Be sure you have a driver's license. Nah, no, it doesn't matter anyway. So to you and to you, to John and to Betty, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for your leadership.
Well,
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for having us.
having us to be able to express a point of view that
Sure.
is
How
not
about we
commonly
thank
shared.
ourselves for our passion? All right, good. We're all passionate, right? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.